Today, we're going to be going over the deleted and cut content from every single Call of Duty campaign. We're talking missions that never made it, entire storylines that got axed, and some wild alternate endings that could have completely changed the games we know and love. Some of this stuff was cut days before launch, and some of it was worked on for years before getting scrapped entirely. And honestly, some of it sounds better than what we actually got. So let's dive in. All right, Call of Duty 4, the game that changed everything. The one that took Call of Duty from a World War II shooter to a global phenomenon. But even this masterpiece had content that never saw the light of day. First up, we have Cobra Pilot. Now, we don't even know the real name of this mission. The only reason we know it exists is because the game's source files refer to it as Cobra Pilot. Now, multiple previews of the game actually reference this mission, meaning it was cut very late in development. The mod tools still have all the building models that could have been used, plus some additional structures that don't appear anywhere else in the game. What was it about? Well, we have no idea. But it was real, and it was coming until it wasn't. Now, my guess, it's probably a helicopter gunner mission given the name, but we'll never know for sure. Now, next up is immediate action. From what we can piece together from the planned string files, the mission would have taken place at the American Embassy in London. And here's the crazy part. It was basically a recreation of the real-life Iranian embassy siege of 1980. The SAS is storming in, a hostage rescue, the whole ordeal. Now, we know it was supposed to happen at 7:42, but that's about it. The player's team is unknown. The exact plot, it's gone. It's a shame because that real-life event is legendary in Special Forces history, and it would have been incredible to play through something like that in the game. Then we have School. Yes, you heard that right. There was a mission called School in COD 4. We know it existed because there's a compass map file and a vision file still buried in the game's code. 2 helicopters existed in this level, and you actually can see their shadows in screenshots from the pre-alpha build. Now, the level was found fully playable in pre-alpha build 253. It would have taken place between Heat and Ultimatum. Your objective was to hunt down Drago Zakhaev, which was actually the original name for Imram Zakhaev. The mission list was nearly final by this build, so it was cut very late. It was likely removed because it messed with the pacing of the story. With the back-to-back intensity of Heat and Ultimatum working so well, this might have added something in between that killed the momentum. And maybe it was actually good that it was cut. Oh, and there's one more thing. The intro was actually originally way longer. You could go through explosive training and run an obstacle course before the cargo ship mission. Now, this was actually restored in the remaster, so at least we got to see it eventually. Now we're moving on to World at War. This one hurts a little bit. There was supposed to be an entire British campaign, 6 missions taking place in Holland and the Rhineland, 6 fully developed missions, and all of it was cut. Now, we could have been fighting alongside the Brits through some of the most brutal European theater battles, pushing through the Netherlands and into Germany, and instead, it was all gone. And we never got a proper British campaign in any World War II Call of Duty after that either. Now, there was also a mission called Fly. Now, this flying mission would have taken place between Little Resistance and Hard Landing. We were supposed to pilot the same plane that becomes the booby-trapped aircraft in Hard Landing. Think about that for a second. You'd fly this plane, bond with it in a way, and then watch it get rigged to explode in the very next mission. Honestly, I feel like it would have added a little bit more weight to that moment and made the trap feel a little bit more personal. And finally, there was actually a prologue mission where you'd wake up next to an officer telling you that Japanese forces were approaching and supplies were running low. You'd fight off 3 waves of enemy soldiers. Simple, but effective. It would have set the tone right from the start and thrown you into the chaos before the actual campaign kicked off. Now we're on to Modern Warfare 2. One of the most beloved games in the series, and it had some wild content cut. Now, first off, we have Contingency. You know, the mission where you're sneaking through the snowy wilderness with Captain Price. Well, there was actually an alternate ending where you could help Price set off the nuke, not just watch it happen from a distance. you'd be a part of it. You'd have your hands on that launch sequence, and you would have been directly responsible for an EMP that knocks out the entire eastern seaboard. Then there was a downtown LA motorcycle mission. Picture it. You're tearing through the streets of Los Angeles on a bike while the Russian invasion is happening all around you. Buildings crumbling, helicopters overhead, civilians running for their lives, and you're weaving through it all on a motorcycle. This was also planned as a multiplayer map, and both the mission and the map are gone. I'm not gonna lie, I would have loved to seen this one. Now, this next one is pretty cool too. The International Space Station mission. It's a similar concept to the Coop from COD 4, where you play as a character who's about to die. You would have been an astronaut on the ISS when Price detonates the EMP. You'd watch the flash, see the electronics go dark, and experience the chaos firsthand. Instead of playing through it, they kind of turned it into a cutscene. Still one of the most iconic moments in the series, but imagine actually being up there when everything goes dark. Feeling the station lose power around you, it could have been an unforgettable moment. Oh, and maybe you didn't know this. There was an alternate ending. In the alpha version, the final confrontation with Shepard was completely different. It would have been Soap with his knife facing off against Shepard and his .44 Magnum in a direct standoff. Not the quick time event knife throw we got, something more cinematic intense, almost like a real Western duel between two soldiers. All right, so this one's a pretty crazy one. Black Ops 1, yes. One of the greatest campaigns of all time was almost completely different because Black Ops almost had a co-op campaign. That's right, the entire campaign playable with a friend. Imagine you go through the numbers station, the interrogation, the Vietnam missions, all with a buddy. Now, it makes sense that they tried this because World at War was also produced by Treyarch and they had a co-op campaign as well. But I guess they felt like it didn't fit, and this one was completely scrapped. Now, we would get another co-op campaign in Black Ops 3, but that really wasn't that good either. But I'm not gonna lie, I feel like Black Ops 1 with a solo campaign was probably the right move. Now we move on to this crazy hidden mechanic in Victor Charlie. Now, during the helicopter crash sequence where you're shooting down the Viet Cong soldiers from the down chopper, the game is actually programmed to kill you if you survive for too long. There's a hidden timer running, and you never see it though. The enemies will kill you before the timer runs out. But if you use a no clip and just wait, you can watch it trigger. Just a weird piece of hidden code that never really gets seen in the normal gameplay. The devs really thought of everything here. MW3 has some interesting stuff hiding in the files. There's actually an unused cutscene depicting the ending of Crew Expendable from COD 4. It was intended for the prologue mission and a nice callback, but got cut. But here's the big one, and one that you've probably seen in the last couple months. There was actually a scrapped post-credits scene. After Price hangs Makarov and lights his cigar, a mysterious figure appears in the same building. They observe the scene, Price sitting there, Makarov's body swinging, and then they just leave. But that's not all. Price is then seen passing out and seemingly dying. He drops his cigar and makes no motion. Who was this mysterious person? Were they there to confirm the kill, to clean up? Was Price actually dying from his injuries? We'll never know. That scene could have set up an entirely different future for the franchise. And lastly, there was also a safe house level where you could access a firing range and customize your weapons. The code name was Patriot Crib Proto. You could mess around with the MP5, AK-47, and UMP-45. Now, several of these animations are broken due to the engine changes, but the level actually shows up in early builds of Call of Duty Ghosts, which was codenamed Phantom at the time. Next up, we have Advanced Warfare. Nothing too crazy here. They initially had a mission planned for Panama that featured radiation contamination throughout the environment. Now, that was cut and the location was changed to Korea in the final game. And now the other one, there's a level known as Fission, and it was originally supposed to be called Fusion. And there's actually a pretty big change in it. Mitchell was supposed to lose his left arm at the end of this mission. Now, if you've played the game, he actually loses it at the beginning of the game. So this would have changed that story completely. Now, little small things, Gideon's original name was Burke, and also in the game, the HUD looked almost identical to MW3 and Ghost because Sledgehammer built it on the Ghost engine, which was internally called Phantom. You can even find leftover Ghost content in the early build files. Now, this is where things get a little crazy. The original plan for Black Ops 3's campaign was an open world experience. Now we're talking a post-apocalyptic dystopia with multiple large hub worlds to explore. No more linear missions, just open world gameplay. They worked on this concept for an entire year of active development before scrapping the entire thing and starting over with what we got. A lot of the settings, story locations, and assets were reused, but the open world structure completely gone. Now there's one thing I want to mention, and of course with Black Ops 3, it's the ability to play this game on the PS3 and Xbox 360. Now if you didn't know, the campaign was stripped out entirely due to hardware limitations, but remnants exist in the game files. The only mission you can access through modding is Rise and Fall, and it runs at an unplayable low frame rate before eventually crashing. And I'm not gonna lie, looking at the multiplayer, it's probably best we didn't get the campaign on the Xbox 360. Now for Infinite Warfare, we're gonna be very brief because we really only have one thing, and it's a mission cut from the campaign itself. Now the director has confirmed it itself, and it was actually in the reveal trailer. It's Ethan pulling Reyes onto a damaged ship in the middle of a space battle. That whole sequence never made it into the final game. We saw it, but it just wasn't there. Okay, everybody, buckle up, because this one is more insane than any of them out there. Black Ops 4's cut content could be its own video. Black Ops 4 was originally going to have a mode called Career instead of a traditional campaign. It was a 2 versus 2 multiplayer mode where you'd play as either the Free People's Army or the World United Nations. You would do this while completing objectives while fighting AI in a globe-trotting story with a dynamically changing narrative. I'm talking about a branching narrative. Both you and your companion could switch sides mid-story, different factions with their own agendas. You could have customizable characters like Black Ops 3, specialist companions who'd fight alongside you, and handlers who'd guide you through episodes. There was even a newsroom that would update based on the aftermath of each episode, with 3 different news networks representing different perspectives. First, we had the United News Service, who was moderate and mostly unbiased. Then there was the Noble Media Network, which was more conservative. And then there was the Torch, which was kind of basically Alex Jones. There was also a free play mode that was online only, letting players experience episodes in public playtests and earn XP. Now, 10 missions worth of assets were found that would have been seen in the first season, meaning more episodes would have dropped with every DLC cycle. This was meant to be a live service campaign. Now, the story was set in the 2070s after a global pandemic and climate change threw the world into a year of chaos. Nations either joined the World United Nations or were left behind in poverty. The Free People's Armies rose up from the countries that felt abandoned. You'd uncover a conspiracy about a black market weapon being supplied by the WUN to fuel conflicts and chemical attacks in Spain, and eventually discover that the WN's miracle vaccine was being made from living humans. Now, the ending gave you a choice: destroy the biolab with Sawyer and doom the world to the pandemic, or side with McQueen, let the vaccine continue and save humanity under the WN's corrupt rule. The branching storyline, the factions, the newsrooms, the moral choices was scrapped in February of 2018 and replaced with Blackout. After Career was cut, they tried making specialist war stories and individual missions exploring each specialist's backstory with their unique equipment. Now, missions were developed for characters in Colombia, Iceland, Australia, Singapore, and Cairo, and more. And it's believed that there was a mission for every specialist. That also was canceled just a few months after development. There's even more stuff to talk about, but for now, we'll move on to the next Call of Duty. But what do you think about that? Would you have played that, enjoyed it, or would it have been a really bad idea? Now, we all know Cold War has a wild development history. This game was originally being made by Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software on a modified World War II engine. That is a completely different project. The focus was on a covert operation in a Soviet warfare during the Cold War and Vietnam era. No Woods, no Mason, probably no numbers program at all. This whole project was scrapped in early 2019 due to internal issues, and the setting was handed off to Treyarch, who ended up rebooting it into Black Ops Cold War on a modified Black Ops 4 engine. Now, the multiplayer and zombies modes were both built from scratch, and only the Cold War setting and some character concepts survived. Now, we're going to be covering MW2 and MW3 kind of together, and according to a journalist, Jason Schreiner, Modern Warfare 3 was originally just an expansion for MW2, and this seems to be kind of well-known information. It was going to be a smaller single-player campaign set in Mexico, plus new multiplayer content, not a full $60 game. Then, obviously, Activision decided to reboot it into a full sequel featuring Makarov as the main villain. This decision gave Sledgehammer just 16 months to make an entire Call of Duty game from scratch. Treyarch was also pulled in to build a zombies mode on short notice. Now, Operation 627 originally had a recreation of the iconic gulag showers from the original MW2. The escape was supposed to go through the prison gym rather than the tunnel we got in the final version. An alpha team was going to use bolt cutters to open doors instead of explosives. But that just shows how much iteration went into each individual mission. Now, even Call of Duty Black Ops 7 has some cut content. Now, Checkmate wasn't originally the final mission. According to concept art, Jane Harrow was supposed to successfully escape the Rook with the cradle in hand after Pantheon blew up the safe house. Now, the rogue Black Ops team would have had to shelter in the underground mines and regroup before continuing the fight. This is a different ending entirely. On top of that, Most Wanted was originally focused on breaking into a gala and kidnapping Senator Jack McKinney directly, rather than the approach that we got in the final version. The entire mission structure was actually completely reworked. And there you have it. That is deleted content from almost every single Call of Duty campaign that we have. Let me know in the comments down below. Do any of these missions or any of these changes seem like they would have been better? Again, also let me know what you think about the Black Ops 4 campaign, because it would have been interesting. I'm not sure if it would have worked or not. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you're new. We'll see you in the next one.